keynote speaker. Okay, so we are all ready for our next keynote speaker. Are you excited to meet him? Yes, all right. So this is going to be an exciting one. So we'll be diving into how you can develop your big ideas with sustainability at the forefront. All right. So let me now introduce our next keynote speaker, Mr. Rafael Janisha. RAF works on the transition to a net zero carbon economy through ecosystem restoration, food security, green economy, and low carbon construction through work with communities. So he is actually passionate. He's passionate about environment and education and provides educational services to help companies implement ESG and promote circular economy. His companies leverage natural, mechanical, and software technologies to drive the transition to zero carbon and regenerative economy. He is a 4 times TEDx speaker on sustainability and has won several awards, such as Ramon V. Del Rosario Club Award, Apex Circular Organization Award, Japan Good Design Award, French Chamber Sustainability Award, and 10 Accomplished Youth Orgs Award, and more. He hopes that his stories can help his listeners learn because he was inspired years ago by a speaker in an event just like this. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Rafael Janisha. A round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I borrow the clicker? Oh, thank you. Here we go. One sec. I just have to put my water and my Red Bull. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Who here wants to be rich? Can you raise your hand? There we go. There we go. Thank you. And don't be ashamed because that was exactly my answer when I was in my 4th year of university. I took up business and I wanted to be very rich, no? I think, sir, this is your option to exit so you don't have to listen to my boring story. Sorry, guys, you're going to have to listen to the boring story. No. Guys, let's give sir a round of applause. Yeah. Side story, because I came early, so I got to chat to sir, and I was telling him that everything that I've been able to accomplish is directly attributed to 4 or 5 men and women who are already in their 70s or 80s. So they really helped mentor me. They got mad at me a lot, and you know what they say, diamonds are forged in fire. No? So having someone with his perspective is can be very, very helpful. No? Can you put back the screen? Ayun, thank you. How dramatic. So the introductions ended with the story of someone. I was in a presentation just like this about a decade ago, and that's what's inspired me. There's a continuation to that. I pitched an idea, and the idea was to help me get rich, just like what everyone wants. No? And the guy who was in charge of the event said, if your idea makes you rich but doesn't make anyone else better off, then it's a useless idea. And I'll start with that, no? Because I don't think the world needs more billionaires. The world needs someone to create more millionaires amongst our country, right? And so the theme that I'm pushing is from extractive to regenerative, right? And I'll use different stories to elaborate on that. No? This particular comic strip illustrates what happens in the far-flung regions of our country. No? Indigenous elder negotiating with huge company, billion or trillion-dollar company, saying, we want development too, we like your deal, but development for us means taking care of the land and taking care of water. Things that we're transitioning to. That's what the SDGs are all about, right? But it's also what indigenous wisdom across the planet is all about, right? And for us, it's encapsulated in these 4 variables, this framework, no? Green economy, your personal well-being, environment, and then community and society, right? So recently, The Economist put it on its front page, say goodbye to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Have you guys tackled the concept of the 1.5 degrees Celsius already in school? Or have you seen it? Yeah? Okay, I see some people saying yes and some people not so much. No? 1.5 just means that's the average temperature of the planet above pre-industrial levels versus, let's say, 1800, right? Now, that's an average. So an average around the world could mean plus 10 degrees Celsius in the Philippines. And the data that I have shows that in 1800, when our forests were in perfect condition, sunrise temperature in the Philippines was close to 20 degrees Celsius. In 1900 and early 1910, 1920s, sunrise temperature was 25 degrees. Today, what is sunrise temperature? It's close to 30, right? And what's happening, these are more recent snippets, no? Sugar farmers delaying harvest because there's not enough rain. The rain this year was late, right? I think this rain is, thank God it's come, but we were for a long time in transition between El Nino and La Nina, right? Oh, oops, nawala. Okay. Last year, it went unnoticed in the news, 60 degrees Celsius in Kasiguran, Aurora. Is anyone here from Aurora? No? Anyone here been to Baler? Baler is just north of it. No, that's really hot, guys. 60 degrees. If you're there under the sun for 60 degrees for 15 minutes, you're going to get sick. It's that toxic to your body. And then in the middle, it just shows that the hotter it gets, the more coral reefs we lose because the heat triggers heat stress to corals, right? And this is the reality today, right? We're in here now, fresh water, 9% less, rainfall, 5% more. We could move into that, right? That's our possible future. And based on what our team learned at MIT, it is reasonable to believe that if we go business as usual, we will end up with plus 3.3 degrees Celsius, right? And some of you may be alive by the time that happens, and we'll have crazy climate at that time. So people are scared. And when I was in primary school, in grade school, when it was raining, I was happy because I know there'd be no school. But today I'm scared. My nieces and nephews are scared as well. Because when it floods like crazy, right? So this framework helps map out where the carbon comes from. How is our economy making the world hotter, making rain stronger, right? So it comes from our transport, from our energy, from food. Protecting nature means just the forest, mangroves, the reefs. Cleaning up industry means cement and steel, because cement and steel, while we will build with it, are high carbon producing items. And then removing carbon, that's just the carbon deposit of our ancestors in the economies of the past. No? And so today I'll discuss with different examples through our business, the different types of tech for impact that you can use, right? So there's natural, there's analog, and there's the digital, right? And I wanted it to be this way because oftentimes when you say technology, people always look at the software, and we need software. It's done a lot for us. But in our country, we need a lot of the natural and analog mechanical stuff as well, right? So my story connects to these two landscapes, the reef, the ocean, and the mountains. No? So I'll start first with the mountain. The Philippines lost over 90% of its forest in the last 100 plus years. No? So does anyone know what happened in year 1900 to the Philippines? Do you know the significant event? We were sold to the US for how much? Correct, $20 million, right? Do you think the US made a return on investment from that sale? Yes. Do you know from which industries? No? Lumber is one, correct. The other was mining, right? And the other is farming, right? In the meeting minutes, the Congress explains to the US president, and you can check this online, why they need to buy the Philippines. They say, Mr. President, there is no soil in California that is as fertile as the soil in Luzon Island. The Philippines has lumber to last us generations. That is their pitch to the then US president. No? And without the forest, what simply happens is you mess up the water cycle and it gets hotter, right? This is an example. I'm sure when you're picked up or when you're going out and you're waiting for your ride in the shade because it's cooler. Mas presko, di ba? Now, the heat that we're enduring, especially this year, is called El Nino, right? And you'd think we'd solve it already, but no. it's been happening again and again and again. Why can't we solve El Nino, right? Because it's not a software issue. It is a physical world issue that needs solving, right? And that El Nino drives drier areas, it drives wildfire. Two of the bottom photos are mine. That's in communities that we work with. And of course, rain, you know how hard rain can get. Has anyone here been affected by flood in their homes? Anyone? We have a few. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I wish we could do something more. Trees in particular are the most effective way to absorb water. They're the cheapest, and once they grow, once you put them in for 3 years, they're good to go. This is just a distribution of the water they'll absorb, but up to 2,000 liters of water per tree, as long as it gets to a certain size and age. Now, a lot of our rivers today also have less water. This is from the National Irrigation Authority. And basically, it shows that we've lost up to 75% of water in our river systems. So one story, I work with farmers in Batangas on ecotourism. And when I visited them earlier this year, I saw that half their farms, walang tanim. Half their farms were empty. So I asked, Sir, Kuya, kulang ba kayo ng pananim o ng pataba? Because I was thinking the war of Russia and Ukraine drove up the price of fertilizer by 3, right? Sabi na, ay sir, mahal nga yung pataba, pero binigyan kami ng gobyerno. Government gave us. And sir, yung seeds, nagbigay yung LGU. Local government gave it to us. So I said, so what's the problem? Ba't wala kayong tanim dyan? Ba't kalahati lang? And their response, sir, kulang na kami ng tubig. Hindi na yan magawa ng solusyon ng gobyerno. Right? And I looked at their mountains. All their forests had been turned into coconut. Coconut does not have the same water retention as forest trees. It's probably 400, 500 liters versus 2,000. That's huge. No? So this particular video will help illustrate that. So there are two boxes. The box on the right simulates a mountain with trees planted on it. The box on the left simulates a mountain without trees planted on it. Watch how the water flows, because they're watering both boxes. So they're simulating rain, right? On your left side, the water flows from the top. It flows fast. It brings all the soil. That's a flash flood or a landslide. On your right, look at the box. Watering, same amount, but the water's just starting to drip. And when it drips very slowly. And when it drips out, it's clean, right? So, no forest, what nature gives to you is landslide, flash flood, silted rivers. With forest, what nature gives to you is flood control. It gives you water in the dry season. It gives you a stream or a waterfall. Now, if you know of any Filipinos who still pump for water from the ground, that's how the aquifer recharges, right? And so if you're going to build a home at the foot of a mountain, do you want your home to be at the foot of this mountain or this mountain? Point to which one? Right one. Exactly, right? So you think they teach this more often, but they don't yet, no? And so regardless of the outcome, whether it's heat or flood, prices of food go up. And that is an issue that we have to face, right? There are 3 provinces in the Philippines where they don't pay for water for rice. Kalinga, parts of Aurora, and parts of Ifugao. Otherwise, in Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, everywhere, you can see farmers on their trucks lining up for gasoline because they're going to use the gas to pump water from 200 feet under the ground to water their farms. That's why our rice is expensive. At least one of the reasons, right? And so I'm showing to you 2 mountains that I'm sure you've seen in many areas, right? This one is golf course green. Many times you think it's pretty, but that's not naturally good because that means no trees, no water. This one, much darker, this one has water, right? So the story goes that we're working in San Felipe, Zambales, and look at the color of the mountain. It's brown because it just burned. It's an ancestral domain of the Aitas in that area. It's 4,000 hectares large. And when we first stumbled upon it, because I was looking for hikes in the area to set up, I thought, wow, we should try to find a way to help these guys reforest, no? And so what we did was we used ecotourism as a way to drive people to the place, to call attention to it and tell the story, and to get people active. The tours are still in play today, although not right now because the river is 10 feet high and we need to wait until it subsides, no? So on those tours that we set up, you could hike, right? Walk. If you didn't want to walk the 10 kilometers, you could take a Grab Carabao. And if you, when you get to the village, there's, yeah, you can't book that on the app. We had archery, different kinds of immersive activities, right? Elders would talk to you about herbal medicine, what's good for your stomach ache, headache, muscle ache, etc. Right? And then we'd coach the community so that their food, the food that they put in front of you, is restaurant level. Because after a long walk, you want to eat very well. No? And after that, we get the chance to plant, right? Oops, somehow it's not working. Oop. Oh, sorry, it's delayed. Sige. Well, anyway, after our first successful tour, I went up to the chieftain, this guy, his name is Erese, and I told him, Chieftain, babayaran na kita. And then he said, magkano ba yan? So I told him, sir, we're going to pay you about 4,000 pesos, which is, in their land, in their area, it'll take a family 1 month or more to get that money, right? But they can earn it in 1 day through ecotourism. And that's the power of tourism. That's why Boracay, Siargao, Palawan, La Union, you name it, right? Tourism is fast money, no? But is it sustainable? Not necessarily. So si Chieftain, I asked him, why don't you want the money? And he said, because sir, if you pay me money, I might spend it on cell phone credits, I might spend it on cigarettes, I might spend it on 3-in-1 coffee. Hindi naman yan papakinabangan ng community namin ng matagal. So me, I'm like, so what do you want? Kasi I need to pay you. Kailangan kitang bayaran. Kasi ang dami kong dinalang bisita. At ginawa ko to para makinabang ka, magkanegosyo ka, habang inaalagaan mo yung kalikasan. And his response was, sir, tignan mo tong lupaing ninuno namin. 4,000 hektarya pero nakatiwangwang. Kung babalik ka, dalhan mo kami ng buto at binhi. Kasi yun, itatanim namin. At kung nakawin man yun, yung magnanakaw, itatanim nila yan. At makikinabang ang kabataan ng sityo namin. So here I was, I'd graduated from business school, and I was learning about sustainability and restoration from someone who had dropped out of 5th grade. Indigenous wisdom at its finest. And it's the same wisdom that guides us today, right? And so with his story, with his advice, we did 2 things. We started getting seeds, first for environmental purposes, and second for economic purposes. No? So this is the first one. We did our before and after. So here we started 2017. It's a little toasted. In 2021, things started to grow, right? And then this one is 2023, right? I don't have an updated 2024 yet, but things started to grow well, and that's the whole point, no? And what's nice is all the seeds were seeds that we had collected, picked up from the ground, seeds that guests had planted or guests had brought for us, seeds that the community had gotten. No? We didn't have enough cash to get the seedling, the bigger ones, 2-3 feet, but we start with what we can, no? And we're patient about it. No? So, some of the elders would say, kalikasan na naman. Bakit kalikasan? Ba't hindi kami? And for context, I understand because they have a lot of nature around them. We don't because we're in the city, right? And if someone's lacking in nature, it's us, not them. So why would they want more nature when they're lacking economy? And this is why building green economy is so important, because you must give incentive for people to take care of the environment. Because as we discussed earlier, people got rich through mining and through lumber, right? And so these are the initiatives that we focused on. So with the cash that Chieftain declined, we used it to go to Baguio, and we got seeds from the Good Shepherd Sisters. If you're familiar with ube jam, right? They gave the seeds, Aitas planted it, and in 6 months they started harvesting. We coached them to make purple yam chips, Japanese style, very thin. They still serve that today for guests, and they sell in the marketplace. No? And then for seeds, we got a lot of people to plant it, and within just a year or 2, things started to grow. Trees started to grow. No? And as trees started to grow, we get more shade, and with shade it gets cooler. We measured up to 13 degrees cooler. Right? With the trees also come flowers, and with the flowers come bees because they like flowers. And by the time COVID rolled around, we were able to harvest honey from the communities for them to sell and for us to sell as well. No? So organic honey. Other communities which had land by forest, we said, let's go straight into fruit trees. And so we tried to do our best to implement, to monitor despite the COVID restrictions, and within a year, their fruit trees started to bloom already. Today, this farm is a 200-tree citrus farm. Bamboo is a miracle grass, touted as a natural technology we can use. We planted it in 2016, and then in 2020, they were harvesting it and making it into bamboo paroles, right? So, good market opportunity for them every year. And my favorite is cashew. We started picking up nuts of cashew from different trees in my village, in the countryside. We planted it. And by the time 2021 came, community started selling. And we found a DTI facility that lacked cashew anyway. Half our cashew comes from China and Vietnam, right? And so what we did was we tried to build a local economy that would allow them to thrive and give them incentive to take care of nature, right? Again, the technologies here were not super sophisticated. They need basic machines, basic tools for processing. Maybe they need soil analysis. We're hoping we can get an IoT device in so we can measure soil moisture and soil nutrition, right? But it starts with the simpler things. No? So, there we go. This is the latest one, 2017 versus 2024. And again, I reiterate, the top picture, there's less water in there. Lower picture, more water, right? 2 weeks ago, Chieftain was planting. We planted another 25,000 this year, right? And we've also expanded to adding mangroves, right? Mangroves per hectare produce about 500 kilos of seafood per year, per hectare. No? So, in Ifugao, just to drive the point home, on the top of the mountains there are waterfalls because the forest is there. And so, all the farms below, free water, right? And this brings me to the idea that when you're doing your business, especially if you choose to go into different physical landscapes, you have to think about your water budget as well. No? And with your water budget, you can grow a lot of interesting things that will utilize technology and can create value and fight hunger. No? Cashew is one, right? You can do coffee. We import more than half our coffee. You can do tea. We import most of our tea from China, from where else? China, Japan, India, Thailand, UK, you name it, we buy it. No? Chocolate. Chocolate prices went up by 3 this year because the cacao fields in Africa suffered an El Nino hit. Right? Big money to be made. Coffee trees, cacao trees, like growing in the shade of other trees. No? So again, this is a framework that we hope more people, more entrepreneurs take a look at. Right? Understanding that there is a water budget in any area that you go to. No? Now, we talked about a wildfire, and this is the more updated one. We lost 22,000 trees within a 12-month span because of wildfire. Sobrang init, right? And interesting, when we look at wildfire areas, oh, it's hanging. No. We had a hard time putting out the wildfire because we don't have the ability to bring water up into the mountain. No? So this video, this guy, during the rainy season, river super flooded, as I mentioned earlier, 6 up to 10 feet high, deep. This guy wanted to get rice, so he crossed. And then 6 months later, in February, same river, it's dry. Then there's wildfire in the mountain area, right? Flood and fire, things that you read about in the book of Revelation, right? If you're a little extreme about your sources. No? Why does one landscape have 2 of these within a 6-month period? Why does it have both of these? No? But these are issues that we face, issues that other people face. No? Has anyone here seen wildfire live? Anyone? Yes? Okay. No? I got to speak to Secretary Loizaga of DENR. We had huge wildfire outbreaks in Baguio and in Cordillera, and she said, we are not prepared for this because it's a new phenomenon that the changing climate brings us, and these things need solutions. No? And so we were looking for solutions, and so we dug deep, and what we found is that wherever there's fire, there's dry grass, because that's the fuel for the fire. No? And so the solution we found is an old world technology called pyrolysis. Right? Pyrolysis is simply burning at a much higher temperature and reducing the oxygen. And in the end, you get what you call biochar. Right? Biochar is a carbon negative item. It can give you carbon credits. There is one company here doing it, a Singaporean company. This is what it looks like. No? Now, basically, nag-uuling ka, but it's a high quality of charcoal. No? And one of the things about biochar is that it holds 5 times its weight in water. So watch this. No? You put the same amount of water in two different canisters. One is biochar, the other is none. Watch what happens. So can you imagine? It flooded in Marikina just a month ago, right? Imagine if you put 10 tons of biochar on the mountains there. You'll hold a lot of water. You can reduce the flood 1 liter at a time. No? And biochar, when you put it on soil, increases plant growth. This is taken from our home. We have our own organic farms within our village. And wherever there's biochar, things grow a lot faster because it holds nutrients as well, right? And here, on your left is a standard burn, right? Open pit burning, pag-uuling. You see all the black, that's carbon, right? Now, look what happens when you have, Can you press on that video, please? No. Look what happens when you have the right technology. This is a kiln for biochar. Look at the air, it's clean. A lot cleaner. So you're able to retrieve 30% of the carbon instead of 10% if you normally burn or allow it to decompose. And so that's why it's carbon negative, right? And that carbon can be mixed into soil, which is what we did for our 25,000 trees this year, right? And the nice thing about biochar is when you mix it with paint, it reduces temperature from the sun. It also increases rust, increases the anti-rust ability of metals. Right? Wasn't it very hot last summer? Didn't a lot of schools cancel classes because of the heat? Well, look at this. We've got the solution, right? So the other thing about biochar that we found is that it can be mixed into concrete. Cement, concrete is for every kilo of cement or concrete you make, that's 0.9 kilos of carbon. That's why it's on the chart from Stanford as a big driver of carbon. But you can reduce that by up to 40% because according to Stanford and to the Australian Institute of Concrete, you can substitute things and you can, if you add biochar into the mix, take out a little of the cement, you'll get a similar strength. It'll cure a little slower, it'll dry a little slower, but you'll reduce the carbon as well, right? And so a lot of these things that we're showing you, we hope that these provoke ideas in your head on what using technology means, right? And so I'll end my story about the forest there. I'll go quickly to the ocean, right? I fell in love with the ocean because I had the chance to put up a surf hostel in La Union. It's called the Circle Hostel. We just reopened after COVID just last month. No? And La Union's great for surfing, right? And my surf teacher, one of my buddies, Paolo, posted this, and this disturbed the surf community a lot. Can you imagine surfing in water this dirty? Papasok yung basura sa bunganga mo because when you're surfing, your mouth is probably open. You're like, right? And so it disturbed us a lot, and we wanted to do something about it. No? So we tried researching, it's not showing. Sorry, the screens seem to be disconnected. Well, why don't you escape na lang and then try again. Oops. Is the projector? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Slideshow mo na lang. Okay, can you play the video? Thank you. So this is an image of rivers. Can you imagine how much trash, right? Every time we use single-use plastic and other single-use trash items goes into a river. And anything that goes into a river goes into the ocean. No? Can you play that video, please? And when they get into the ocean, fish that are unassuming, don't know anything, start to eat it. This is the belly of yellowfin tuna. Anyone here like sashimi? If you've eaten sashimi, you've probably eaten plastic. Because 60% of fish in the ocean have plastic in their bellies already. 6 out of 10. Right? It's not a joke, guys. It's a real issue. Right? And so I do appreciate that Red Bull's packaging is in metal, a lot easy to recycle, right? Plastic in particular, that's hard, no? Now the thing about plastic, right? If plastic lands on a piece of coral, it is 89% more likely to get sick. 89, that's like a COVID vaccine. Per hectare, coral reefs will produce 1,000 kilos of seafood per year. And so, what connection am I trying to draw here? That dirty plastic waste going to the ocean will destroy corals, which produce our food. Plastic waste equals more expensive food or less food, right? And so I tried to research based on the Smithsonian Museum data, how much food are we losing out on in Manila Bay and in Laguna de Bay, right? This is my calculation, and here's the infographic simplified. About 4 million kilos of seafood per year from these two bodies of water, if you include Pasig River. No? Would you eat food from Manila Bay? No. What about from Laguna de Bay? Maybe. Oh, you wouldn't want to. It's filthy there. Do you know the cleaning cost of water if you get water from the highlands? It's 10 pesos per cubic meter. The cleaning cost for water in Laguna de Bay, because it's so dirty, is 27. It's almost 3 times more expensive because it's dirty. Isn't that an issue that needs solving? Right? Expensive water. And by the way, a lot of water in the south, there are claims that there's arsenic in it, or arsenic. That's because it's heavily polluted. No? And so that's what we're pointing at. No? Waste leads to death of food. No? And the other thing is that for every kilo of plastic that we use, we also burn 3 kilos of carbon into the atmosphere, because plastic is oil. It's an oil product, right? In fact, I was hoping UNP would add more water refilling stations to that so that I can refill bottles. Incentive for people to do so. No? So if you don't want stronger storms, if you don't want wildfire, if you don't want floods, stop using plastic. If you want cheaper food, stop using plastic. The single-use stuff, avoid it as much as possible. No? And so one of the things my friends and I did is we created a campaign to educate people about waste segregation, and hopefully to get them to stop using it. No? So here's a short snippet of that. They think that plastic wrapper for biscuits is the same as a banana peel. So we started building with our own trash. This is what it looks like. That wall is still around. That's worth 1.5 tons of plastic, or 1,500 kilos, right? We got to about 10 tons total as we started to get that movement on, and we're very grateful to the media for covering it, right? But really, the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, how much plastic can you prevent from getting into the economy, into our environment? Because we're producing way too much. The recycling movement, and I'll show you a bit about recycling now, is not enough in terms of how it will solve our plastic issues, right? And so this behavior in particular is something I want to call attention to. It's easy to change, right? Everyone here dined in. I hung out in this coffee shop for 6 hours, and I watched every table come and go. All these tables took takeout cups, but they stayed there for 3 hours. Why the heck would you use takeout cups when you're dining in for that long, right? Do you want to use our taxes on waste, right? It doesn't make sense to me, right? Financially, environmentally, right? And I hope you guys can also demand different companies to change their behaviors. Plastic, in reality, though, is a much smaller part of the waste issue. It's 18%, right? Sometimes 25%. No? A lot of it is organic, and that's what makes it tricky, because when you try to segregate, or if you don't segregate, yung plastic mabaho na kasi ang daming food waste and everything in it. No? So when you segregate, you need solutions for the other 80% of waste, because you're not just gonna throw the plastic. What about everything else? No? Glass and paper and metal have accepted recyclers in the country, Jayobote, or junk shops who like the metal. But what about the others? Electric waste, clothes. How about wood? How about leaves? Right? How about food waste? No? And so one of the things we're doing is we're piloting a new form of cleanup. It's called Beyond Cleanup, focused on circular economy of reef and ridge. So in this cleanup, we're going to be showing different technologies where you can turn plastic into a keychain, where you can recycle clothing, where you can turn plastic sachets into pillows, turn food waste into compost, and where you can make biochar, right? All simple forms of technology that allow you to reuse waste, but this time in a more holistic, complete manner. Because we don't want you coming into a cleanup thinking of just plastic. It's everything, right? This is a free event. Our first one is on September 29. If you guys want to come, you're all invited. You just let us know. I'll flash my email later, no? And so, in terms of recycled products, one of my favorites is this one, no? So they're able to put plastic and lock it in cement, a much better build than what we did, right? But 7% of the total body weight is plastic. And they're able to make pavers out of it, they're able to make walls out of it, and it was stronger than standard hollow block. In fact, strong enough to withstand Manny Pacquiao's punch, right? Standard hollow block is 170 psi, Manny Pacquiao's punch is 700 psi, right? Just so you know. And these bricks can go up to 800 psi, no? So maybe they can take 2 punches. Now, more companies are getting in on the circular economy, which is good, right? Because we have to recycle, but still, we need to reduce the waste wherever possible, right? Some of the sachets, harder to use, have been recycled into boards. So maybe when, let's say, Red Bull does a market media event or something, instead of buying pure Sintra, this is the background, right? And then you just kind of print over it, no? So that you're reusing stuff, right? And I put together a collection of businesses that I work with. These are some of my friends, entrepreneurs. This one uses her design flair into making nice furniture out of recycled plastic. This one sells skincare. There's no plastic at all in their skincare. Shampoo bars, soap bars, everything. And then where they have reusable bottles, you can send it back to them for refills, right? This one, they have biodegradable packaging, right? It's made out of cassava, and it's produced here in the Philippines. So that's an interesting technology as well. And this lady, Rina, does a lot of composting. She's got a logistics system to gather compost, and they use the bokashi method. And then another guy, brilliant guy, they recycle plastic into different kinds of crates. Crates that use for fruits, for food, for things, no? Trash cans as well. So very, very interesting and innovative solutions, no? And all these solutions catering to a law that came out 2 years ago called the EPR law, wherein a company today in 2024 is required, if you sell 100 kilos of plastic via packaging or whatever, you're required to take back 40 kilos. Next year, it's going to be 50, and then by 2028, it's 80 kilos. So our government is trying to do something about it, no? But it's too slow. And even if people are able to retrieve, it's not just the government's job, it's our job, because we have the right as consumers, no? I've stopped myself from buying ice cream in McDonald's and Jollibee just because they didn't want to give it in a reusable cup. That's how, extreme I am about it, no? I stopped buying coffee from these guys because they'd always give me a takeout cup inside. It's nice though that some of the branches have converted, right? Because they're hearing the market demand, no? And so you have to understand how that works. And this green trend's only gonna grow bigger and bigger, no? So again, I showed you a lot of things, and at the core of it is people don't take care of what they don't understand, right? But that's why we're here today, so that hopefully you understand a little more, so that you can see the issues, and so now you have an idea of how to attack these particular issues with entrepreneurial ideas, contributing to a green economy, right? And so our company, I mentioned earlier, does ecotourism. This is our map because we're putting together examples of sustainability and restoration surrounding the capital, because everyone in the capital needs to see sustainability and restoration. It can't be just for the countryside. It's too late by that time. We all study here and we all look to ideas from Metro Manila, no? Now, just to close, our goal for the next decade, and this is a 10-year plan, is I would like to reforest Sierra Madre, and I would like to clean up Manila Bay, right? It's aggressive. I don't have the solution for everything yet now, but we're going to try anyway, right? Because we have to build that movement. A lot of the ideas I showed you today, I did not have when I started MAD 10 years ago, right? And MAD, for FYI, was business number 7. My first 6 failed, right? But that's okay. We learn, we pick up, right? And we keep going. And so this is our current view of the Sierra Madre. It's denuded, right? And that's why it's flooding like crazy in our areas. But we can do something about it, right? Never mind what the older generation says. I don't even listen when they say you can't do it or where are your resources. No. We put action. We put our sweat equity on the ground. That's what we did in Zambales, and we got the commitment of the Dumagat in Antipolo to reforest with them. And so that's why I think we can do it, right? We have different events that drive interest to the green economy. This one is a tasting event where you can try all the agroforestry products. It's called Feast from the Forest, right? Tea, coffee, honey. Who doesn't like these things, no? We also have a dinner coming out with Toyo Eatery, if you're familiar. It's called Disappearing Dinner, the food that you could lose to climate change. That is not the actual date. I'm still waiting for Toyo to get back to us because they were hit by the flood too, so everything just delayed, right? And then we have Tipsy with Sustainability, which is a fruit cocktail making event where we save the seeds, talk about agroforestry, plant the seeds, right? Because I told you, we didn't have enough seeds, so we had to be very creative in how we would get the seeds we wanted for the communities, right? And then the latest one we have, it's a little more serious. It's called Race to Zero. This is a workshop that we learned at MIT, and we're able to facilitate carbon reduction, different companies. Now, this particular, can you just play this video? It's super short, right? Earlier, I showed this chart, right?
What if we just start by increasing the carbon price, right?
Sige. Can you close the volume na lang?
So that really means it's strong. $5
Yeah. So here, I'm manipulating the AI of MIT. So if you increase the carbon price $250 per ton, you see that the energy shortage goes down. And on the map up there, you start to see green dots. Those are areas that will no longer flood because of the temperature decrease, because of the carbon reduction. No? And so now we're just manipulating other variables, energy efficiency, energy electrification of buildings, transport efficiency, to drive down the global temperature from 3.3 now to 1.5 and to 1.4. And then you see more green areas that are now saved, right, from flooding because the temperature changes. No? Our last workshop teaches people how to use this AI so that you yourself can make a decision and you can see the areas that are flooded. No? So anyway, again, these are the stories that I hope have given you some ideas on what you can do. I hope you learned something, right? And thank you for your attention. Right. Have a good afternoon. Yeah. Use this na lang. Go ahead.
All right. Once again, let's all give Mr. Janisha a round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Ryan. So let's take again for the powerful talk on using AI to drive sustainability in business. So it's really inspiring, and I hope you got ideas already on what to submit and also related to how to make an impact also to our environment. And let's go back to Mr. Janisha's presentation earlier. Also, it inspired us, Rafta, to think about how we can use technology to create a better future for us. So we'll be just getting ready for Q&A. So get ready with your questions. I know you have a lot of questions in mind or to our related topics earlier with Dr. Canela and Mr. Rafael Janisha. All right. So
I'll call doctor.
All right.
Yeah.
So just be ready and calling on Dr. Canela.
Guys, pasok na kayo. Pasok na kayo. Q&A na. Come on. Let's go.
So I hope you get ready with questions, and feel free to reach out to our mic stand there in the middle. Okay, hi, welcome back, Dr.
Don't you like his
Canela.
entrance? It's so dramatic.
Alright.
Sir,
Okay.
can hold this, sir.
So we'll be now opening the floor to questions, our questions.
Yeah.
Do you have your microphones already? Okay. So do we have a question in our audience? Any question?
Yeah.
Ay, wala pa. No question yet. No question. Okay, so let me start with a quick question. Doc and Rap. Alright, so let me start. Here's my question for the both of you. You may answer first, Doc. So what advice, Doc, would you give to someone who's interested in joining the Red Bull Basement, but doesn't know where to start yet? So maybe he or she doesn't have any idea yet, but how can they get past that first hurdle of getting started? Okay, I'm too fast now. So,
Hi, thank you.
any advice, Doc, for those who's interested in joining the Red Bull Basement,
Yes.
but doesn't know where to start yet? And how can they get past that first hurdle of getting started?
Ang pinaka-importante talaga is the idea. Kailangan mayroon kang idea. Tapos yung idea na yon is an idea that is transformable into a business proposition. Kasi kung meron kang idea tapos hindi pa transformable into business proposition, baka naman wala ka rin kapital, no? You don't have enough wherewithal to be able to actually start the process. Pero meron at meron yan. Huwag ka mag-alala. Kasi sometimes an idea is not viable now, but tomorrow it will be a different world. Sometimes also your idea is not feasible because that's how you think as a person.
True.
Pero pag naisama mo na nakasama si Rafi, something happens with the idea. The idea creates a synergy that you don't even know exists. Kaya importante rin na pag may idea ka, ikalat mo ng konti, huwag yung sarili. Kasi kung sarili lang, matatagalan tayo niyan. Matanda na kayo, hindi pa rin nagiging business proposition yung idea.
Yeah. And can I add,
Yes,
if
please.
your idea, hopefully, it's related to a very clear problem or opportunity, right? And you saw a couple of problems. I'm sure you can find a lot of those. It's not hard to find that online. No?
Alright, so any question from alright. The mic set is here. Okay.
Hello. Yeah, so this is a question that kind of bridges both AI software and also the problem with environmental awareness. So even when we try to teach and educate people about like recycling, Lego, it always comes down to the habitual practices that they always revert back to what was always being done. So how can, what are like some of the things we can do to possibly both try to re-educate people and stop them from having going back to their old habits, but also trying to integrate that with AI and technology?
Actually, ang AI is how old now? I think you know that it was developed, tawag natin AI, pero in general, we are talking about ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was born kailan? November 22, 2022. My God, that's barely 2 years old, going 3. So ang ibig sabihin niya, hindi pa talaga natin alam how it will eventually shape up. For the time being, lahat tayo nag-experiment. Lahat tayo nag-aaral. Lahat tayo nagpa-pilot ng AI. But the nice thing about AI is something like this. If it takes an electrical engineer 5 years to learn electrical engineering na luma na rin, and then they learn in practice 10 years, that's about 15 years of work para kumita sila ng, comfortable earning. So, pwede na, no? 15 years. Yung AI, 30 minutes, marunong ka na eh. Kaya, hindi mo na kailangan masyadong pag-aralan. AI is a technology that is looking for solutions. Pero, isang warning. As of the present moment, the country does not have a guidelines we call guardrails on ethical use of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wala pa rin tayo yung tinatawag na responsible use of AI. Kaya ang advice ko sa mga companies that I am helping right now, try to observe, try to record, try to document all your experiences about AI. And then later on, let's use these experiences to manage it properly and shape it properly for the Filipinos. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Sa ngayon, anything that you like to try on, you try on with AI. Kasi talagang nandyan siya, libre, etc., etc. It will become more and more expensive. Just to give you a forecast, yung ChatGPT 01, the original price of that is $2,000. Basta binili mo ngayon. Hindi yung per month. If you want to have per month subscription, you can pay up to $50 per month. Subscription yun. Ganong kamahal. Pero binibigay lang sa atin for free for the time being.
Yeah. Doc, can I add?
Yes, please.
On the use of AI, there are several, parang what Doc was referring to as the AI that we coined today, ChatGPT, is probably the more complicated or the more advanced systems of artificial intelligence, right? You put in data, you trigger something, it gives you something back, right? So, in the field of persuasion, right, the AI tool I showed earlier from MIT was created for the very reason that they couldn't get global leaders to agree on how much carbon they had to commit to reduce based on their industry.
Yes.
And they needed to all have a similar dashboard when they were negotiating. So this tool came out first in the Paris Climate Treaty of 2015, and then it's just showed up in every COP thereafter, right? So that's one way to do it, because the AI allows you, using certain data pools, to make calculations, and it gives you a dashboard where people can align, right? It's not a perfect dashboard, because no AI is perfect, and the data is always adjusting in real time. But this one, they get new data every quarter from different sources, and so it's helpful. And we've used it recently with Ateneo Institute of Sustainability. And we got people from ADB, from KPMG to come over, and they're like, wow, I didn't understand what it meant until I saw those charts and graphs move up and down, right? So that's one way to do it, right, in data presentation. But the other way that you can probably use AI is in the data analysis, but that means you need to get an IoT system up, meaning technology that allows you to take in data a lot. And I alluded to it earlier. We're managing 4,000 hectares of forest, and we'd like that to grow 10x, 100x, because we need to restore a lot of our land. No? I had the chance to talk to a large agroforestry company in Brazil, right? And he's handling 100,000 hectares. And I was like, whew, sir, how do you manage that? It's so big that the climate in field 1 is different from the climate in field 10. That's how big it is already. No? And so he had put systems for every hectare. He has one machine that takes in moisture, another machine that takes in weather, another machine that measures nutrients in the soil. And so he's got one per hectare. And so he has 100,000 of these machines because he has 100,000 hectares. And with that data, that's where they're using AI to analyze, when do I water, when do I fertilize, right? And they even have field guys who go into the field with cameras. If there's an infestation, they take a picture of all the infestation, and it gets uploaded into an AI that searches for what are the insects, what are the solutions. No? So those are some ways that you can utilize that. No? But I do want you guys to remember that a lot of the AI, for AI to succeed, it will be on top of a lot of other existing technologies, which in the Philippine context may not be ready yet. And if you're going to move into that direction, you may need to build the infrastructure around it so that AI becomes useful, right? That's at least that's hopefully some context that helps you make a decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other guys?
Any more questions? All right. Please say state your name, please, also.
Guys, my name is Taylor Rasa. I'm from Inquirer, and I've been following ChatGPT and all this general AI stuff since ChatGPT came out. It's true that artificial intelligence can do all the things that Sir listed on the board and more. But the problem is, AI can also do a lot of damage to the environment.
Yes.
For example, according to the University of California, like Meta,
Yes.
own Facebook, they have their own AI model called Llama 3, and that uses like 32 million liters of water this time.
Mm.
So my question is, how do you balance the positives of AI with its negatives? I think this is an interesting question because it seems like
Good
AI and sustainability will clash heads here. Yeah.
Very good question. Pero maganda na yung sinimulan actually ni Rafi kanina, na yung tungkol sa, let's say, climate change. Yung AI is exacting tremendous amount of power to be able to do its very simple calculations. Yeah, okay, kaya yung design a large language model. Grabe ang ini-exact na computing power. The computing power, to be able to develop the computing power, demands data centers. Ngayon yung data centers is now more and more kulang. Talagang grabe na ang demand sa data centers. Kailangan pa rin ng maraming data centers. And they have done quite a lot already so far as data centers is concerned. Most of the data centers, of course, are in cold places, Switzerland, Finland, yung mga ganon, northern countries. Then they are now trying, Microsoft actually is trying very hard to do it underwater. So underwater na para mabawasan yung electrical consumption. Kasi grabe na talaga yan. The others, of course, like Meta, etc., and Google, they have their own power systems just to power their data centers. But data centers cannot be located in one place.
Yeah.
You have to distribute it for strategic reasons. Isang tama lang yan. Wala na yan. So because of that, the demand for that is very high. The other attempt is being made by Elon Musk. Elon Musk likes to build data centers
In space.
So that's the ultimate frontier. If he succeeds, he always does for the time being. So if he succeeds, then we are going to have a cheaper and much more friendlier.
Yeah.
Pero sa katotohanan, no, it's not balanced.
Yeah.
For the time being, the more you use AI, the more data centers you need.
Yeah. Sir, I like your question because it's about guardrails, the concept that he shared earlier. And if I take a step back and I look at the core of your question, what you're really asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how do we make sure that a new technology is not abused at the cost of humanity and environment? In many ways, that's what you're asking, right? Humanity and or environment, which is the same existentialist question for plastic. It's the same question for nuclear. It's the same for many things, right? And so, Sir has shown how it can be used for good, but you also make a point, can be used for bad. And so I think we need guardrails. But I also think that the innovations of the world, many of the innovations are technological, right? Innovations of the world also have to be in terms of how you build, as cheesy as it sounds, value systems for people. Because you put bad people on AI or people don't know how to use it, they're going to ask a lot of questions that don't need to be asked. You're going to burn a lot of water, waste a lot of carbon, waste a lot of electricity. But if you have people who know how to manage resources, then they'll only ask the questions that need to be asked. And that's why, as Sir said, AI is not an excuse for you not to think, because you need to know how to ask the question, right? And parang the point you raise is super valid, right? Because sometimes, students, you're joking around, you're just Googling random stuff. But now it's not Googling. Now it's like chat GPTing or whatever, everything. And the water consequences of that is different, no? And so maybe one guardrail is price, because maybe you shouldn't have access to it if you haven't studied something, right? That's one way of doing it. Maybe it could be, a class. There are many ways to skin that cat, no? But again, the question you ask needs a societal response, not a technology response, because the issue isn't the technology, the issue is the user, right? In this particular regard. And that is, I guess, the essence of human struggle in many ways. No? I could ask the same for plastic, right? And you'd have extremists saying, it shouldn't be left out because you shouldn't even use it, right? But it has medical benefit, as we know, right? In hospitals, it's so useful.
So another
Yeah.
thing.
So anyway, I hope that gives context to how you respond to that question.
Right? Then
Yeah.
it's pollution, and it's
Yeah.
et cetera, accidents, and so on. So
Mm-mm.
technology is a double-edged sword. Whether we like it or not, whether you are living in the Stone Age or not, technology will have to come in. And how we use it is our problem. Kaya maganda yung sinabi ni Jeff kanina eh. Kung minsan, ang problem talaga nasa atin. Tao itself don't know. And I think the situation is something like this. Nauuna yung technology kisa dun sa kaalaman natin.
Yeah.
It's got to be the brain and the heart first before technology. Pero palaging nahuhuli yung heart at saka yung brain.
Mind. Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
I am so afraid of AI because AI is only learning from us. Huwag naman natin sisihin later on in the future na what it learned from us, katulad nung kwento ko sa inyo about garbage, tapon kayo ng tapon, tapos nagbaha. Babalik sa inyo yung garbage.
Yeah.
Ganon din ang AI.
Yeah.
We are teaching AI, consciously or unconsciously, our bad habits. And those bad habits will come back to us if we don't know, if we don't master it. Kaya ngayon pa lang, bata pa kayo, I know some of your teachers are not teaching you AI yet, but do it on your own. Total, available naman ang technology everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a follow-up, sir?
It's an important discussion because we're out here trying to innovate and build new businesses. Of course, we don't want to be too scared. We don't need to do anything about it, but
Right.
you still have to be aware that your innovation and your ideas should not have, or at least you have to minimize the unexpected consequences of your new business. And that means that you have to also know the possible risks of your new technology.
Ganda ng principle, pero mahirap gawin kasi
Yeah.
katulad natin bukas you are going to be a changed person because of this event. Magbabago na yung pakiramdam nyo, magbabago yung ideas ninyo, magbabago yung mindset nyo tomorrow. But the question is still this: would you maintain your value that you showed to us today? Gusto mo ring yumaman, gusto mo ring to participate in global affairs, whatever, gusto mong to travel, etc., etc. Lahat yan ibabalance mo with your idea, simple idea that you will bring to Tokyo kung manalo ka, or to Silicon Valley if you eventually make it.
Yeah.
Pero how do you balance that? Value is very, very important for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Thank you, Ralph and Dr. Nella also. So any more questions from our students? All right.
Sure.
Maybe ask for your name, please. So the microphone stand is here.
Favor.
Okay.
Can I ask a favor?
Huwag sayangin.
Yes.
Nandito kami ni
So this is your chance
had the
to
last
encourage
slide a
everyone
while
to
ago
ask
that has my
questions.
email. I want
And
to show my
whoever
email to
produce
them.
teammates about a certain topic in mind.
After na lang.
So,
Oo.
yeah,
Parang di
after
sayang.
the
Q&A, we're gonna have a photo op.
Yeah, okay.
On the
Sige.
26th,
Okay.
kami naman ang magtatanong sa iyo. So, I think it's better that you take this chance
Yes. Take
to
this
ask as
opportunity.
much questions as you need to. Yes?
Okay.
My name is Alex, and I'm a first year student here at UAP. And
Yes.
first thing I have to say is I shouldn't have come here with this outfit because it's really cold in here. Anyways, regarding my question, and since I'm fairly new to the idea of AI startups, and I do plan on creating a startup around an AI app, but the question is, should a startup or business revolving around either AI, the artificial intelligence itself, or AI-powered technologies, be driven or run by AI itself or a human? And when I say run by AI itself, it's in the sense that you'll create a company that's managed by AI. Its partnerships, its product improvement, consumer research, etc. Or in the second part, simply use AI as a tool to improve your company, like as a messaging app for clients.
Wonderful, wonderful question. Today, the level of technology of AI is agentic. Agentic. It means we are now able to create our own AI agents. Even if you only have a computer like mine, like the one that you all have, so you can already create your own
AI
agents.
assistant,
Again.
as in like an AI assistant.
Yes, but agent is even much more because agent is something like this. You ilagay mo na yung lahat ng mga nagawa mo. Let's say you wrote papers when you were first year. Ilagay mo na yung lahat. Poems, whatever, even the advice of your mother, your father, and even the emails that you got, ilagay mo yung lahat doon sa large language model ng AI mo.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes your AI can already make the decision if you are absent. Are we together? Did I make it very clear? It can make decisions even if you are absent, as if you are the one making the decision yourself. Kaya ang ganda eh, no?
Yeah.
Pero that particular scenario is still just a little bit farther, by 2 to 3 more years, and then it will become perfect.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, there are 2 rules to follow. Number 1, alam niyo yung never swim alone? Say, you cannot have an agent without a human being partner. So yung dalawang yung kailangan magkasama. The rules by which the 2 of them will interact is not there yet. Pinag-aaralan pa lang natin. So we got to enable, stimulate AI and human interaction more and more so that we learn how the 2 can interact productively together. Second, which is also very, very important, is that whatever happens, human beings cannot be replaced. Kasi the most unstable species in the world are humans. Try mo kung you don't know, try it with your boyfriend or with your girlfriend. Ngayon, ang bait. Kinabukasan, sira ang ulo. Kaya ganun ang tao. Machine is different. Machine is stable. Basta wag mo lang lagyan ng additional input, it is stable. The difference with AI, that's why everybody is afraid, is because AI learns. So, kung ano yung ginagawa mo, it learns. Kung input mo ngayon, puro libro, etc., na nagawa mo, when we put vision, capacity in the AI, it can already see you, and it can already observe you, and it can already make the decision because it learns from observing you. Kaya yun ang nakakatakot. Yun ang kinatatakutan ng marami.
Yeah. It's a good question. And when I was in first year, when I was your age, I had a friend who wanted to have a business that had no employees. AI didn't exist back then. I said, "Oh, what business do you want? And why don't you want employees?" He said, "Oh, I just want to have like a business of like a lot of vending machines or something," because he didn't want to have to deal with the drama that having employees would bring. At least that's his perspective, though. And the reality is that your question made me remember this memory, you know. And when I fast forward to today, like having been in business for a while, and I've tried doing businesses that are very hands-on, businesses that are kind of technological, and businesses that are or services that are very software dependent. What I would say to that is one, AI is based on past information that is online. You understand that? If it's not online, AI will never read it. Right? That's one. Number two, and with that comment, you should look at the trend of how younger people are using online. There's less and less information online. If you look at the generations using Meta or using Instagram or using whatever app, people are refusing to put as much information as they used to today versus 10, 15 years ago. Is that good? Is that a good decision baseline for AI? Not necessarily, right? Because there's less info now. People understand that they want to keep their privacy. So why would you allow the machine to make a decision for you when you know the data it's going to use is incomplete at best? You'll need a human to get that, right? The other one is that the AI will sometimes make decisions, but it will lack the human element of empathy or the human element of context, right? Maybe the AI understands the finance, but didn't understand the climate context. Didn't understand the human element na, oy, there's war. When there's war, will AI track that? No. It'll only track what the media says about the war. But it will not track war itself, right? And so you have to understand how the data gets into the AI in the first place so that you can make an informed decision on which parts of your business, should you choose to go, you allow AI to support you. But Sir put it excellently, it's a support tool. It's not meant to replace you. It's meant to make you more efficient in some ways, right? Because there are tasks that are very, very droning. For example, I've got AI on my app. It's a scanner. Before you take a picture to scan, now you scan, the AI reads all the text for you, and then you can copy paste it easily, right? So I bought the AI because it saves me, 5 minutes a page. I'm more efficient. That's okay, right? That's a simple example, right? But when the randomness of the world, humanity, or climate change, our AI can't predict climate change because it's never happened, right? It's new. So you have to be very mindful of its parameters. And I'd suggest you look online, you look for Neil deGrasse Tyson on his interview about AI. He explains it very, very well, right? In his head, he's like, because he's a physicist, he invents stuff, right? He said, AI will never outdo me because I can choose to write it on paper and AI will never have access to my idea.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good point, right? It's that simple. Yeah.
Alright. I guess last question from here. So do we have any more questions? Can we?
Yes.
Alright, just last. Can we accommodate more? Alright. Okay.
It's for Dr. How did you gain the confidence joining startups, knowing the big risk behind it? Was the isolation of being an employee enough for you to be your driving force to engage with startups?
Wow. Mahirap yung question mo, pero I would like to share the following. Merong manager. Meron talaga mga tao that they are made to be managers. They are made to be corporators, people who goes up the ladder. Meron ding entrepreneurs. Yung entrepreneurs, ibang pag-iisip niya. If you want to see the most chaotic person in the world, you're looking at an entrepreneur. Yan, gano'n. Yung isa, yung manager is more order and stability. Yan. Kaya maganda yung model na entrepreneur first to start up and then managers to take over the business. And if you look at some of the companies like Apple, etc., nakita nyo pinapalitan yung entrepreneur. Kasi yung entrepreneur is usually chaotic, unpredictable, etc. But they are also very creative. Yung isa, kailangan ma-temper yung creativity so that they will see order, they will maintain order, etc. Ngayon dumating yung tinatawag na starter, a pre-entrepreneur person. Yung starter is beyond creative. Sa kanya, walang imposible. Lahat yan may solution. Ang problema talaga, hindi mo lang nakikita yung solution. Or you are somehow carried away by the environment into another place. That the solution is in another place that you haven't seen. Starters are very interesting people. They can make money even if there is no money. They can make you work even if you do not have salary. And I tell you, I have never seen people work hard, really hard, when they are in the startup, rather than when they are working with a company. With a company, 5 o'clock, uwian, tapos. Sila, no. In fact, in one of the startup hackathons that I participated, yung coding ng Python, 2.5 nights, hindi namin ma-solve yung coding until natapos na yung hackathon, hindi namin na-solve yung problem. Today, with AI, and if you use Claude, yung sa Claude kasi pwede niyang ipakita sa inyo yung code. The code is going to be generated for you automatically. And if there is error, because sometimes it will say, sorry, I cannot do this anymore. Then you ask it to do it again and again and again until the code is perfect. And you can do that in minutes today. Noon, ay Diyos ko, mahirap yung coding. Coding is very, very tough task to do for programmers and engineers. So, yeah, tatlong personality magkakaiba. Meron pang isa, yung hustler. They are the marketing guys. These hustlers also create a lot of customers na hindi kaya ng starter, entrepreneurs, or even managers. Yung hustler talagang okay na personality. Problem is, if I tell you you are going to become a hustler, ayaw mo. Ayaw mo nung term. But hustling is a good term. Positive term.
Doc, can I jump in? Kasi your question, I used to ask that question and I wanted to reframe it a bit, right? Perhaps instead of asking parang the way the question was posed has made being an employee sound so dreary, right? And I understand there are jobs that are not so nice or not nice at all, but there are also jobs that are spectacular, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I run 2 businesses, but I was also offered part-time employment at a company. And I thought, hey, I like the company. I'll take the part-time employment because I can also learn from it. No? Because I realized as my business grew, I couldn't be a leader to employees if I didn't know how to be an employee also.
Exactly.
Right? And you need both. It's not, is one better or the other? It's usually a law of supply and demand. In our country, we tend to lack entrepreneurs. And perhaps that's why Red Bull has decided to kind of push that agenda forward here. But there are other countries where they lack employees. So kawawa din yung entrepreneur in that way, no? Right? And so parang for you, if you're thinking about where you go in that sense, no? It might be a timing issue, which Sir mentioned, and I do believe there's a timing issue for everything. Maybe sometimes you have to be the second entrepreneur. But if you feel you got it, maybe you can be the first, the lead, right? There's a process to these things, no? Maybe you find it now, maybe you find it 10 years from now, maybe you find it 5 years from now. But I think the key message is like, if you're interested, go for it. But also look at any employment experience that you can get your hands on will be useful. Because for me, I worked at Johnson & Johnson before I jumped into business. I have to say, that experience was extremely valuable because the way that they structured things has helped me because I'm not naturally a structured person. So I would look at structures from other companies and try to make that adjustment. And until now, I have to keep learning from others, no? In that process, right? So yun.
One additional point.
Oh.
Yung digital brought out another kind of person, especially in Pilipinas. Pero hindi pa masyadong nare-research. Yung mga rumaraket. Alam niyo yung term na yun. Rumaraket are gig economists. Yung mga na part ng gig economy. Isa lang yan, o dalawa lang yan. Tapos kumagana sila, halos millions ang kinikita. Pero sila lang yan. Then you can talk about sa gig economists din, kasalo rin yung celebrities. In the University of the Philippines, we're just about to start a course on how to be a celebrity. Nung una, wala namang nag-uusap niyan eh.
Ay, ganun. Wow.
Pero ganyan ngayon. They are something new that you need to develop. Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Alright, thank you so much. So I guess we have a Q&A session and we'll have a quick photo op with Dr. Canela and Sir Raph right here.
Sulat kayo.
Alright, so we look forward to your ideas and submissions, right, Doc?
Yes.
So we are excited to see all your big ideas and hopefully it will turn, it will create an impact not only to us but also to the people around us. Alright?
Nakita namin ni Rafi, see you in Tokyo, guys.
Yes, see you in Tokyo. Alright, so let's just have a quick photo op please and our speakers.
Oh. I'll
Okay.
stop that.